Okay, so welcome to our April meeting. Nice to see you all. Hope you're doing well and good break if you had the chance. So I have just a few slides and we'll have a bit of a discussion as usual. So the main topic for today is we have the annual event. Last year we couldn't do it, so we are doing this. Just briefly recap on then. We keep growing new SIP members, steady, not really huge. We had our first or second. We had Nestle at one point who wanted to train about 15 of their more experienced PMO portfolio managers. And now there's another company in India, no, in Singapore who was training 25 members. I think that's one of the things that we wanted to do so that companies grow these competencies. So things are moving. We're also happy to announce that we have a new fellow candidate, which is on the call, Shona. She's taking the step to write on and research on a topic of her interest around strategy implementation. Shona, maybe if you don't mind, just briefly share with the team what you're going to be researching and writing. Maybe people can give you some references or ideas.
Please. Thank you. Yep, with Robin and Antonio's help, I'm researching into strategy implementation in the public sector. It at the moment has a Western bent to it, but Antonio is trying to shift me a little bit further east, which we can discuss when we next meet, Antonio. Might need another 10,000 words for that one. So yeah, I've worked across private and public sector doing things called strategy implementation before I found out about the Institute, and have a bit of experience and could see, even as I was doing the professional membership, where the language even wouldn't quite fit with the public sector. So it's really, really interesting to do some general research and then to bring in some personal experiences and personal techniques that we've been doing and see where we go. So it's about 2.5 months left to do it from here with Antonio's help, and we'll just do a bit of exploring and finish up the project.
Yeah, it's interesting, a topic, public sector, so really impacting everyone. So we look forward to that work, Shona, and then sharing with everyone here.
Can I just offer some assistance, Shona?
Yes, please, write it.
I have a background in public sector for over 20 years. I'm currently working on a project on governance, e-governance with Harvard University right now, with the two policymakers there. It's not directly related to that, but we could dovetail that. And I know that Robin has some background in that area too.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Thank you. Yes, well, funny you mentioned governance. Governance is a big thing in public sector, of course, because you've got the public accountability. But it would, that'd be really useful. Thank you.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Shona. So that was this next slide. We only have like one per time because we try to spend time with the candidate and have regular sessions. The other big news is we finally have time on organizing this event. It's 2 short half days. It's about 3 hours. First day, 23rd. So all you are invited, free joining, of course. We try to mix it so that people need to wake up or stay longer just one of the days. And so one is more, at least from Europe perspective, midday, 2 to 5, and then one is in the morning. We're going to record it, so if it's too early for the North Americas, then you can see it well. There's 2 days. The first day we have speakers. We have somebody from Google, from Strategy and Code. This is PwC. Paul is, I think, is the chief editor of Strategy and Code. Lerina works for Google. We're going to be talking about the future of work and And then the last two ones are good friends. They are the founders of Thinkers 50, Des and Stuart. They helped me a lot to create my personal brand and my focus. I got one of their awards later on. So I think as we're mostly an experienced group of professionals in this, it's good to have somebody, yes, a different angle to what we do and thought leadership. So we'll have that on day one. The idea is to have short talks. It's 15, 17 minutes from these individuals, and then have interaction, workout groups, and have them engage with all of you. So not just one side, but on the opposite, much more flipping it to have more discussion. So that's day one. We'll send invites, and I think you need to register members. No members, they'll need to pay. I think we set about $99 early bird. So if you know anyone interested, just let us know. We'll forward you the link. But yeah, trying to bring good people, interesting people, different people that we can all learn. And the two we have created first time ever. It's an idea we've been thinking forever, but we don't have time. It's we want to give award. This year we is mostly Robin and I who are doing the screening and the selection, but we want to create a bit of a volunteer group of experts who will help us to identify the corporate and then the person. You can see we have big names there: DBS, the bank in Singapore, Hire, which done a lot in terms of reorganization, the higher purpose. I love what they're doing in terms of removing bureaucracy, and L'Oreal, who's in a constant transformation mood. So good names that you all know, and we'll announce the winner on the day. And then on the individuals as well, we're trying to find individuals who are just driving implementation. These are people that I've come across, or Robin. So young, I know her, she was in Peter Drucker Forum. She has created a platform for training in small bites. They call it Knobe. And so very, very interesting as well what they've done. A company based in Singapore, RQM, and Badr, his work, he's in Riyadh, has done a lot for Aramco in strategy implementation, and personally I know he's driving the Project Management Institute in KSA. So we'll have a different type of session, day two, with hopefully we can get some of the people from these companies or the individuals to share a bit their stories. And the second half of the day will be Robin and I just having a discussion with you on strategy implementation. So I'm very excited about that. We want to do a different conference. We all go to so many conferences per year. So we said, let's do something different, more engaging, a bit of fun, bring good people so that we can learn and connect with them. So that's the plan. I hope you can notice in your calendars, and we hope to see you there. More details will follow, where to register, invitations, and so on. And of course, if you have any colleagues, just let us know, and we'll share the invitations as well. So that's very exciting. What else? The next part is going to... Any questions on the event? I think this is quite straightforward. It's exciting. So I had 2 points that I wanted to do in breakouts. The first one is on the metaverse. We discussed on AI a few, I think 2 months ago, and even last time with Robin and the guest speaker. I wanted to bring this thought further. Imagine where metaverse is happening. I think it's happening in some areas. how would strategy implementation look like there? Is there anything different? What are the new challenges that you see that we need to consider when thinking about this new space? And is it going to be the same or not? I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I think this is good topic to start talking. So my proposal is to break out in rooms and have a bit of discussion on this topic. The second topic I wanted to cover is sustainability and diversity. So let's start with the metaverse. I'm going to make out, how many are we? I will put like 2 groups, if that's okay, because some people are there, but maybe not there. So I'll put 2 groups and do a small introduction, catch up, about 15 minutes. We debrief, and then we go to the second topic. So what are the metaverse? How do we see implementation there? We talk about AI already. What are the new challenges, risks that we're seeing there? Okay. So 2 groups, just to make sure that there's enough people in each. I'll see you in 15 minutes. I'll stop by. Welcome back. So I'm curious to hear, I heard already good discussions in the breakouts, but let's have that broader discussion with the group on this topic of metaverse and strategy implementation and human-centric. What's the impact on humans, employees, workers, and so on. So who wants to start? I had group number 1 who was there, I think Chris, Martin, Daniel, I think, Eman. Who wants to just share briefly, and let's see what the team thinks.
Well, I was chosen to lead
Very good.
the feedback, and Chris started off by advising, and I think we all agreed that strategy implementation is strategy implementation. It requires certain processes and procedures and focus, and that does not change with the metaverse. And in fact, there may be pluses and minuses as a result of the metaverse, the ability to communicate across time zones and to get people quickly together. But then Phil pointed out that can only go so far, and you need to bring people together to really ramp up implementation. So one cannot default to the metaverse. One can understand the metaverse and its pluses and minuses, but ultimately you have to bring people together. Ahmed shared a BBC article on the metaverse and the sale of land, in inverted commas, on the metaverse, which is rather interesting. And then let me hand over to Evelina. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She added the front and also interesting perspective. Evelina?
Thank you so much. So I've explained I work for a company that concentrates on flexible working, and that boils down to people and their perception and the power that is in the hands of the people now, rather than organizations, with regards to how they want to collaborate, where they want to collaborate, and what they consider a workspace as a space being these days. We see a lot of data and insights coming through, and I've used the words to say there's a storm brewing. And this storm doesn't come from COVID, or it's obviously a result of post-COVID events, but it comes from people taking control and the power in their hands to how they want to work and live their life. Now, whilst that's undergoing, the metaverse perhaps not being a perfect solution at this point in time, and not yet as immersive as it should be to tackle all of our senses, it is an improvement to some of the methods we have that we're using at the moment, which still lead people to feel disconnected at times. And we also have organizations coming to us asking, how do we build our portfolios of working with people so we don't lose their loyalty? We want people to remain loyal to their organizations, how do we create that emotional connectivity? And I truly believe that whether it's Metaverse or whether it's somebody else who's working in a dark corner somewhere in Silicon Valley coming up with an alternative, if they can tackle the feelings we have when we work, then this will be a goer. It will become a matter of time when it becomes the new way of working. But that's what we're seeing at the group where I'm working. And in fact, we're implementing a strategy to prepare for that change.
Very interesting. And no, I really like it. Thank you, Evelina. Any questions on that or any follow-up points?
I'd be interested in if there's any document, just because my organization is quite old-fashioned, if there are any documented pieces on that, articles or anything, I'd be really interested in links in the chat so that I can point to something, because I've been saying this for a while within my organization. Things like working in the office 9 to 5 is an EDI issue, and it's not really getting anywhere. People want to work more flexibly and would be really interested in any pieces.
Absolutely, and also I'm not trying to sell the company I work for here, but we are trying to become a thought leader in this arena, and the company that I work for is called the Instant Group, and they publish a lot of information frequently, but I will make sure to share the most relevant ones after the session.
Thank you, Evelina. Nice. Anything else from group number 1?
No, not from.
I'm surprised Chris usually has something to share.
Yeah.
Nigel did a great job, and Evelina as well. So we're in agreement.
You're so kind.
Okay, let's go to group number 2.
Shauna, you take the lead.
No.
No. Ladies first. Go for it.
No, you've got far more experience, and you came at it from the start with some really interesting stuff that I learned a lot.
Well, we do our best. What I was sure is that I'm working on a couple of projects, and one of them is around the evolution where everything's going to become a one-to-one experience in society. And it doesn't matter whether it's a business context, a civilian context, students to institutions, patients to health providers, government to citizens, manufacturers. Everything's becoming one-to-one, and the expectation of the younger generation is that they're going to receive a one-to-one experience, not unlike what they're getting with Amazon. And when Amazon turns on more AI, it's even going to be a more relevant experience. And the concept is that the contextual interaction is exclusively relevant to that other being, so that that person is part of a experience that they are obtaining something the most relevant to them, that is contextually relevant to what they're seeking. And a perfect example is any one of us that tries to interact with our government, we have to go on a mission to explore where to find things. And it's all over the map, and there's no connectivity or no ever interactions. And that's because businesses today design things in silos or design them in horizontals, but they don't cross-pollinate that. So we think that there's a future where there will be a need to bring that together and shape it, and it'll be continually shaping over time as the data and the interactions become more mature. And the reason why we have to be very conscious of that is because there's a generational transformation taking place with digital natives that are being brought up on 6-inch screens, and they're only using exclusively a small footprint to get the information they want. And they're also highly distracted and highly focused on moving on to the next thing. So that how do you continually keep them re-engaged? And Shauna brought up the comment, which I embrace, is around about purpose, that the purpose has to be the governor, but also has to be what keeps the glue together so that contextually it's relevant to that person.
And you see, the key here is whose idea of the context is it going to be? So it's pretty scary thinking that I may have to live within a bubble of context that someone else has built for me and said, no, that's you. Sorry, don't try and go out of that. Don't be interested in something else now, because that's not your bubble.
Well, you're absolutely right, but from a business standpoint, we know of companies like Airbus where their helicopter division is making parts. Obviously they're a community of parts, thousands and thousands of suppliers, and they contextually operate in a one-to-one experience in a portal. And so that's a portal for that business, but everybody will have the ability to have your own portal. So you will create what you want out of that portal experience. That's up to you. You're absolutely right. Because you should be the driver, the controller, and the gas and the brakes. So you should have that completely, and that's critical, Chris.
Yeah, and I think that's still a challenge, but relatively easy for something like a bunch of helicopter parts, right? It's a very narrow frame, in fact, compared to a normal personal domain. You think about how I interact with the government, depending on where I live, that can change radically. But that's a lot more complex than a bunch of helicopter parts, right?
Yeah, if it were so simple, right?
Yeah.
But it's all bits of data. I mean, a helicopter part, yes, you're right. There's a literal sense, but it's a point of data. It's a data point that, how do you harvest and manifest that data point so that it makes a better outcome? So you're absolutely right. However, that's what we have to introduce, is the human interaction, because the human interaction is all about an emotional part.
Exactly. And if it's the same looking at data and project management, then how do we use data and AI and build context for projects as well? And it's the same. And that, of course, ramps up the strategy the same way.
I still think we need to resolve the issue of ethics and quality assurance.
Absolutely.
Who is the ethics police? Do they have trust?
How do they do it?
How do they do it? Quality review. Is it the wiki thing? Is it just don't trust anything, or I don't know. It's I think there's some big human issues to consider, but I did like hearing about the opportunities and how great it's all going to be.
For me, my concern is also to create high-performing teams, and you need to build trust. And it's hard to build trust with people. So I don't know if we're going to be able. Maybe it's easier to trust a PC than someone living abroad and that you've never met. So you will need to find a way to integrate these technologies and make them feel part of the team. No, it's and I don't think we're used to that. And so, can you build high-performing team with machines and robots and AI and algorithms, and saying that thing is going to be there when we need them? And so I just don't know. Maybe it's easier, maybe not, but it's the trust part as well. And I agree, ethics is a big point, and security, it's huge, but also that we need to build trust with new things that we've never. I
think trust is huge, and who wrote the business rules? And I think if people who've not been involved in IT, more naive, might be more trusting, actually. I just think people who've been involved in even the old-fashioned writing requirements and all that stuff might be a little more cynical about it all.
Yes, some of us are used to finding out that we made errors in our coding despite our best intentions.
Exactly.
And we didn't always laugh at the results.
Exactly. I think it's going to be a bit Wild West for a while, I think.
Yeah, so there's an issue there of things like the culture within the team and the fact that we don't have a single metaverse, we have multiple metaverses, right? And many of them very proprietary type places. So who's, you know, am I the same person in this metaverse team as I am in another metaverse team?
Do you want to be? Do you want that all the data behind it to be that joined up?
Yeah.
It's going to be confusing. Who am I this minute?
It's like a sports team.
Yeah, exactly.
Think about it.
Sports teams, yeah.
Think about it. Why there's no two that are the same? They're all different, but it's all a bunch of human beings haven't figured out how to work together.
And every project team is different, you know.
And then we will start speaking about the politics in the metaverse, probably the office politics in the metaverse.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
The underlying challenge, though, is the fragility of mankind. That's what it comes down to, and that's the part that is always gets left behind, because there's a attitude of for profit as opposed to for purpose.
And you have to start with purpose if you want to go anywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we had this conversation with Antonio and I think Robin a couple of months ago, where what was the fundamental challenge, why strategy and implementation aren't happening? And it comes right back to the kernel, you know, like in software, there's a kernel. And if you haven't figured out the kernel, the DNA, the structure, and that purpose isn't founded and galvanized, what ends up happening is everybody starts interpreting and inserting their behavior, their opinion, their belief system, their leadership, their loyalties, and all of the complexities become very chaotic.
Yeah.
There's another danger too. There's a danger that if you have a metaverse and you are trying to implement significant strategic change, that you actually have a lack of engagement. I've just, one of the projects that I'm working on at the moment, we're all a bit bemused. We're doing a feasibility study on something, and it occurred to us that as the team doing that study, we seem to be the ones most invested in it, which is not the way it should be, because we're actually taking a very objective view of it. And we actually sensed that there weren't a group of champions wanting to make this thing happen, which it may well not happen because of that. And one of the dangers that you have when everything is virtual is, why should people care?
Yeah.
And
very relevant. Yeah.
Well, I have to say, it probably should not happen if there's nobody championing it.
yeah.
But
Antonio
look what happened.
would back that up.
But look what happened with COVID, how you had a highly disenfranchised society at large. And fortunately, in one sense of the word, people had an opportunity to focus on family and what would their surroundings were. But now in the metaverse, you've got both, because you've got not only your personal purpose, but you have your business purpose as well, or whatever the mission is at large at that time.
I have an interesting question to all about this. What if we were to consider all of the blockers that we just discussed, if we can call them such, or challenges, and actually turn them around and use them to build a different way of implementation? What I mean by that, it feels like we want a level of central control and we want a level of governance in around what we do, because that sets the pathway. But what if we were to go into organizations and make organizations responsible for creating those pathways in their own little eco environment? And actually the fact that an individual can be multiple different things in metaverse, could that not be used to be different people for different requirements at different times, creating a matrix environment? It's just, it keeps on playing on my mind. I hope it's making sense, but I wonder whether there isn't a way of turning it around.
Oh, I love it. But what you're saying is maybe they become actors, and you're going to get a script.
Actually, if anything, I'm talking about setting out challenges and problems to solve, to which they create their own script to achieve.
I like that. And I like the self-directed nature of it, and also recognizing that as managers, we don't know everything. There are certain things, within our teams, functions that people are having that where there are people who they do this really well, and giving access and creating a bespoke plan for that individual using the Metaverse could open opportunities for our own potential as organizations. But I also see a challenge in us being open to that and not having the control that perhaps we're used to, or having the certainty that we're used to. And that's really where the uncomfortableness lies. But at the end of the day, it's understandable because you're accountable for, the performance. But there has to be also given a take and an openness to this creativity, and not having the control that we're kind of used to for the sake of other people's growth on our team, using the knowledge of others. I see nothing but opportunity. I was saying this to my group. Obviously, it has to be governed well. It has to be managed well. But to give access to a whole world that you don't have access to, you wouldn't have access to. If that's done well, that's good for a team, in my view.
No, I really like that, Clodagh. I think that's sort of the middle ground, isn't it? Because we all have to lose a bit of control to get more ownership from the others. So, I always say that a successful strategy implementation is arriving at the destination together, even if it wasn't the destination you first thought of or you wanted to go in. But if you all arrive together, that's sort of a success. So you have to give up a bit of.
Be called a disaster if it's the wrong destination.
Well, yeah, but within business cases and all that stuff. But I quite like that aspect of it. If it gets others more ownership, because I completely agree. So I've forgotten the name of the guy from Wellington that. Yes, I've got that at the moment, and you've just got a couple of individuals with a black cloud of doom sitting over them who are non-specific, not articulating it, just kind of it's all shit kind of thing, who just infects everyone else. But if there's ways technology could help that in this environment of remote working and so on, for them to have ownership and feel buy-in, I think that would be a great positive.
Interestingly, it's actually what my boss is challenging me to. I've approached the strategy implementation from a lens of, I never thought of myself as traditional practitioner. I always thought that I bend the laws of physics. Not until I've met my boss, who's definitely making me push that to a new level. And we're concentrating on how you maximize that ownership and provide minimum structure sufficient to set out the path, but also minimal enough for people to understand it's their problem to solve. So that's what if you have any advice, just message me offline. I take all the advice I can.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to finish on time, so I think there's more to come on this topic, definitely. We're going to see, there's no call next month because we have the conference, so I look forward, please. I hope you can make it at least to one of the days. Would be good if you can both. I know the time is challenging, but we want to make something special. Please share it as well, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you for the great discussion once again. Take care.
Thank you. Super interesting.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.